Welcome to Urban Knife Guy, where we explore the urban lifestyle and jungle survival. We are in the jungle once again, and today we're going to talk about gloves for light bushcraft and hiking. First, if you watch this channel regularly but have not subscribed, please do so to help the channel out. So ever since I got serious into bushcraft and hiking, gloves were definitely one of the first few pieces of kit that I was looking at. Because in the environment that I'm in, the tropical jungle, and if I'm bashing through the jungle, definitely lots of weeds, a lot of forage, a lot of lalang, which is very pooky vegetation that you want to push away, and there's also thorny branches and stuff. You definitely want to have gloves to help move stuff away. And also a lot of the jungle area here, the forested area, are on hills or mountains, so there is an incline. It's also very slippery because it's constantly wet, so gloves can also help break your fall if you are sliding down, or if you need to grab a branch or a tree or something. It really just gives you that more confidence. And if you are doing bushcraft and you need to handle tools, you can do wood prep, you definitely want to have gloves as well, because if you do it a lot, you will get blisters. Of course, if you do this all the time, your hands will harden up. But if you're just an enthusiast who does bushcraft maybe once a week or a couple of times a month or once a month, then you definitely want gloves. It will really help you out so you don't get your hands all blistered up. So today I'm going to talk about two pairs of gloves. One is very popular and very well known. One is not so well known, but I think it's something you like. So let's check both of them out. So the first pair of gloves is a pair of Mechanix gloves. Now Mechanix, that's ending with N-I-X, it's a very well-known American brand, and they provide hiking gloves, tactical gloves, riding gloves, basically a whole bunch of gloves. And one of the things about their gloves is they're very form-fitting to the hands, very comfortable and very good fit. And this specific one is known as the 4X material gloves. 4X means the material is, I guess, 4 times as thick, because the general Mechanix gloves are very thin. And when you do some kind of a rough work, let's say like wood prep or even going through the jungle, after a while, it is going to wear out. And one of the criticisms of Mechanix gloves in general is they welt really quickly. So the 4X material is supposed to be thicker, and it is thicker, and therefore more durable and more suited for, let's say, bushcraft or a bit heavier use. Now, if you have seen some videos online, even people who have the 4X and do heavy work, their gloves welt pretty fast as well. So that's something to take note of. If you're doing just light bushcraft and hiking, this will probably last you some time. Now, I've had these probably for almost a year. I don't use them every single time because I don't need to use gloves every time. If I'm going to do a bit of heavier bushcraft work, I'll wear my gloves. If not, I can do it without the gloves. And if I'm doing hiking, if I'm going through main trails, not a problem, I don't need gloves. But if I'm going bashing, taking a parang and going through the jungle, then definitely I will be wearing gloves. And I do notice there is a bit of wearing out. And Mechanix gloves, because I guess they are a good brand and they're well known, and at least in this part of the world, in Asia, they're imported, so they are more expensive. So these gloves, the MSRP that I've seen is about US $35. We pay about a 20% premium here with shipping and imports. So it is pretty expensive for what it is. And in terms of durability, if it can last, I mean, everyone is different, but I would expect this to last, at least some time. I would want it to last probably at least 2 years with use and not being too worried about using it. And honestly, I do get a bit worried about using it, because when I do heavy work, then I do notice it starts to, there are certain parts, right, that you use more, you notice they'll tend to fray. But I would say that they are very comfortable. Of course, they look very stylish as well, but they are very comfortable. They are very lightweight, so when you don't have them, I carry them on my belt. You don't feel anything, and they take up very little space as well. So that's the compromise, right? When it's very comfortable, form-fitting, and you have a lot of dexterity in the hands, it's going to be a slightly thinner material and therefore may wear out more. So all this part is all padded for the hands and the fingertips, and there's breathable material on the back palms over here, and this has a Velcro enclosure. Now, really good for gripping gear. You definitely feel that you have absolutely no problem holding, whether it's a knife, whether it's a pair of pliers, or maybe an axe. You definitely feel that confidence with anything that you have in your hands. So from that point of view, I think the Mechanix gloves are really good, right? The fit, the feel, and the look all work for me. So let's have a look at the other pair of gloves. This pair of gloves is by a Chinese brand called Gumao, Gumao, and you can get this from AliExpress as well as some online marketplaces. Now, this is a pair of hiking gloves. That's, I believe, how I labeled it, or I found it labeled, because they do sell driving gloves, riding gloves, tactical gloves as well. And what you want to look for is that padding on the front of your palm and the fingers. The back, just like the Mechanix gloves, is breathable material as well. So what's the difference between this and Mechanix? Let's talk about the functionality first. Definitely the fit is not as good as Mechanix in terms of how it fits, the space at the fingertips, and just the general feel. It is comfortable, you can work with it, but you can't compare it to the Mechanix. So if I give the Mechanix a 9 out of 10 for fit, I'll probably give this a 7. So it's still very comfortable and still very usable, but you can't compare it to the Mechanix. Now, one reason is the material. This is thicker, which means it's also going to be more durable, which I actually like. But then you lose a bit of that sensitivity and the grip. And as I mentioned, the sizing, there is a bit more space at my fingertips. Of course, everyone's hands are different. It would fit people differently. But just to give you an example, for the Mechanix gloves, I believe the size that I had is a small, and it's really true to form. And basically, in terms of the dimensions they give, or specifications of how you should measure your hands for the gloves, it fits really well. Now, I believe I went to shop and I actually tried them on, so that fit me the best. But when I went back to look at the measurements, they did indeed fit. So I think Mechanix is pretty good for that. So if you look at the website and you look at the sizing chart, you probably can choose very accurately the size of gloves that you need. Now, for this, I think there's more margin of error. So remember, I have small to medium-sized hands. For the Mechanix gloves, I wore a small. Now for this one, based on the measurements, it looked like an M should fit me. In fact, M would be just slightly larger. So what I did was I actually bought an M and an L. So a medium and a large, and what I'm wearing now is the large. The medium could fit me technically, but it was small, meaning if I was trying to close my hands a bit, it definitely felt the resistance and you get fatigue. It doesn't feel comfortable. So I had to go with the large. And as a result, the large is just slightly longer for some of my fingers, but it fits my palm larger. So of course, as I said, everyone's physiology is different. So it's a bit about luck, I would say. But here's the catch, I would say, or even the positive side. These gloves are inexpensive. They're about $12 US. That's 1/3 the price of the Mechanix gloves. And that's how I look at it. So I bought initially 2 different sizes because I didn't know which one to fit. But again, 2 gloves are cheaper than 1 Mechanix glove. And I've now found that large fits me, and I can in future buy more of the large size. And there are different designs as well. There's some with a leather pad for the index finger, which allows you to use touch screens devices, which is really useful when you're outside and you want to use your phone or any kind of device with a touch screen. So for every 1 Mechanix gloves, I can buy 3 of these gloves. So even though they don't fit as perfectly, I think the functionality is great. In terms of the grip, again, I don't feel any... there is a difference, but not a significant difference that will affect the way I work or the comfort I feel. So definitely, I think this might be a better investment over time, just because you're going to get more value for what you spend. And I can get 3 pairs for the price of 1, meaning if they wear out over time, I can just change them and I won't feel too bad. In terms of the actual size, right, if you're to take them off, they take up more space than the Mechanix gloves because they are thicker, as mentioned, against about the material, but still lightweight. I carry this on my Bushcraft survival belt and absolutely feel nothing whatsoever as well. And for both gloves, I can hand wash them, and I do so each time I use them when I'm outfield, and they dry pretty quickly. So my final thoughts on these gloves, I think they're both good gloves. You have to decide for yourself. Do you want to spend the money for something which is really comfortable, but the material is not as durable and you might have to change it a lot? Or do you want to spend, one third the price, get more gloves, but the fit is not as comfortable and arguably not as pretty maybe. A lot depends on the amount of use you're going to use it, how often you're going to use the gloves, and of course what sort of tasks you'll be using. Are you going to be doing heavy tasks or are they going to be light tasks? And maybe that will help you make your decision. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like the content in general, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.